everyone. This is Priya from It's Ok Yaar, and today's topic is the immigrant mindset. And to talk about that, we have with us Vrishin from Capital V, who actually helps a lot of immigrants with their financial planning. So, Vrishin, welcome and thank you for spending time with us and talking about the immigrant mindset. But before we dive into the topic, tell us a little bit about yourself and Capital V.
Thank you for having me, Priya. I am a founder of a financial planning firm that I actually started because I have been through the entire journey of being an immigrant here. Engineer by qualification, moved out to the Bay Area, started with a salary of $75,000, which was not enough for the Bay Area. Had to learn about finance, and then kind of got interested in finance after that, and saw a lot of like people in the Bay Area making the same financial mistakes. So when I got an opportunity to pivot careers, I started running my own firm, and yeah, here to talk about it with you today.
Okay, that is so awesome. And in fact, your journey about how you started, how much you were making, it feels like it's my story. So I'm pretty sure so many of us are
Everyone.
going to relate and learn so much about it. So let's begin. What do you mean when you think about the immigrant mindset? Tell us a little bit about it.
I think there's a sense of impermanence that comes with it. We're always chasing the next visa status, the next requirement, the next goal when you come here. So in a lot of sense, I think when I think of the immigrant mindset, it's a little bit of a jugaad mindset. It's a little bit of a survival mindset where each day is brings a new challenge.
No, I mean, totally. I mean, I can understand that. I think my first couple of years in the US were just about like, oh, will the visa get renewed? Should I be even thinking about having a 401k? Like I should try to save as much as I can. Like, we
Yeah,
move to that saving survival mindset very, very fast because so much of it is uncertain.
yeah. And you came here through your work, right?
Yeah. I came here
So
through my work. And what about you? What was your journey like?
yeah, like most of the other people that come here, I actually came to study. So
Okay.
it's a lot different. Well, I guess it's the same, but again, you have multiple layers because you finish studying, you're on OPT, and then you have to figure out whether you're going to get the next visa, which is the H-1B. And then after the H-1B, you have to go and get green card. So a little more long drawn process.
No, totally. And talk to us about the feeling of the fact that when nothing feels permanent and so much of it revolves around the visa process, what do you see that are the financial mistakes, or what are the things from a financial standpoint that immigrants hold themselves behind?
It's so hard to plan, right? So my career is called financial planning, but like the planning aspect of it is so nebulous and unclear because you're essentially trying to plan for a retirement that's 40 years out and you don't even know where you're going to be maybe 3 years from now.
Yes.
So big question that I always get is like, oh, should I contribute to a 401k? Or like, I get statements that say I'm not contributing to a 401k
Same.
till I find out whether I have my H1B or not, right? That is probably one of the most common mistakes that I see in terms of missing out if your company is matching on your 401k, or if you have the ability to kind of save money in an account where you pay less taxes and you have a way to get around it, but the laws are complicated, people don't do it. So
Let's tap into that a little bit because we do get a lot of these questions actually. And why do you say that having a 401k for someone who is just feeling so not permanent in his life
yeah,
is still a good thing? Like, what if my visa doesn't go through in the next 3 years? Would you still recommend someone open a 401k?
yeah, the way I typically tell people to think about it is it's very high upside, low downside, especially if you're very young. When you're 21, 22, putting away money has a huge compounding effect. each dollar, if I remember correctly, is equivalent to about $88 at retirement. So each dollar that you miss putting in an investment account makes you miss out on $88 of money for
Wow.
retirement. And that's not including the fact that your employer typically provides a match for up to 3%. So if you put in 3% of your money, you've immediately doubled it to 6%, right? Missing out on all of that is the biggest challenge that you'll see. I mean, like for me, I missed out on on maxing out my 401k in the first 3 years that I was working here, and that will likely cost me about $1 million by the time I retire.
Oh wow, I think I just learned
Just
that because I definitely also did not start doing 401k for the first 3 years, thinking that
yeah,
okay, pata nahi hai, maybe I'm going back. What's the point? So,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like now I feel like I've missed out on that. But here, if you are listening to this, so hopefully you can take this learning. If you're a new immigrant, do not make the mistake that both of us have made. So,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing. The one other thing I would
No.
love to hear, when we have to make these big financial decisions. It's a tough one, right? You don't have that clarity.
Mhm.
Talk to us like about people who come to you with advice, etc. When you're thinking about buying a car, buying a house, things like that. Do you think that plays into the immigrant mindset? Like, how would you say that's different or similar to
Absolutely.
others?
Yeah, lots of common threads here, right? One of the big ones is not having credit, right? Because when you come here to study, you're not necessarily working. You don't have a credit score. You don't have social security number, so you don't have a credit card and you don't build credit. And the first time you really understand even the importance of having credit or credit score is when you start working, and you potentially miss out on a window of being able to tap like build 2 years of credit history, and that affects your ability to pay for like take a loan, pay for cars, pay for houses, things like that. Obviously houses are a big question mark because you don't know whether you're going to be here. Cars to a lesser extent, but the
Yeah.
way I typically see it happen is that people will buy used cars that are very old and drive it till you get an H1B, and then in celebrating the fact that you get your H1B, then you get a nice car.
Yeah, like let's actually, tap into that a little bit. Do you I don't know if it's right to say if there's a recommendation, but what is the mindset that is helping, like, is the reason why someone is thinking about it that way? Let's talk about that mindset a little bit. Like, can we get a new car? Yes. Why are we still going and doing that? And this is not to say that you should be getting a new car. Like, that is not what this conversation is about. But I just want to help understand what are the reasons why someone is making decisions like these.
Yeah, I think it varies between, like, if we take both the example of the car and the house, they're two very different examples. Car is a quote unquote depreciating asset, which means it loses money the minute you drive it off the lot. Getting rid of it is a challenge. You have to sell it on a second-hand market. You're likely never going to get a good price because the market is never priced to perfection. With houses, people think differently, right? If you live in a low cost of living area, like Chico or somewhere that's not a
Yeah.
hotbed for tech work, typically you can find a house that is equivalent to paying rent over there. In which case, it kind of makes sense to build equity in a house. If in case you get your visa, then you have upside similar to the 401k. It's limited downside because you have would have paid rent anyway, and it's high upside because if you get to stay in the country, you get to build wealth as well. But again, if you don't get the visa, there is the challenge of offloading it and it being an asset. And you have 60 days to leave the country. So it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on you to sell to get out at a certain pace. I personally do not care for it. It's not something to me. I know people say that property is considered like valuable because it will always appreciate, but it comes with its own challenges of being immobile, having to take care of it, not having flexibility if you are going to move cross country multiple times. I've moved 3 times in 3 years in the beginning of
Yeah.
my career, so it's tough.
No, I mean, totally. And I think if anyone is listening, the takeaway, think about building your credit score first. And if you're coming from India, you're not coming from that credit-based economy. Of course, things are changing now and people are using credit cards all the time. But just perspective, like 5, 7 years ago, that was not, it was just starting out and you're always thinking about saving. So let's understand that a little bit in terms of what is it that we were used to and then what is it that we are coming to. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I think the big advantage that we have, especially as immigrants, is being able to save money. We're typically taught in our
Very
house
early on.
about saving money, but nobody talks about investing, which is very weird to me now that I like know about the world of investing. But yeah, typically we've been told to save money, right? So everybody I would feel is fairly good with the habit of saving. Um, and we spend only what we have because we all come from households which are of limited means. We don't want to borrow. We've seen the ill effects of borrowing money,
Yeah.
whereas the American society typically lends itself to living on borrowed money. I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. The other day, I visited somebody over here, and their house had like a pipe burst and their floor got damaged because of water damage. So they were feeling really bad because they were like, oh, the insurance, like we have to, it's covered by insurance, but we have to go through this process of staying somewhere else and waiting for our, like not being able to live in our house and then dealing with people to do repairs and things like that. And they told their American neighbors was like, oh, cheer up, it's a good thing, you get a free new floor because insurance is paying for it. So I guess just two very different ways to look at the same thing. Um,
Well, so like very interesting you say that because I also definitely noticed that with my American friends and like our group of very close tight circle where yes, like if something happens, we because we don't understand this whole system of how insurance works and how you can get some of this stuff paid, we're more overwhelmed by oh my God, like there is another one thing now added to this list of multiple things that I'm dealing with versus people here are like okay, let me like use this money that another corporate has and is paying for to kind of upgrade my life a little bit. So that's definitely an interesting take for sure.
oh,
Um, yeah, and then you know what? I don't know if you are you a fan of the show The Silicon Valley at all? Do you wanna talk a little bit about the episode Blood Boy? Um, where they typically like talk about this aspect of like how America is saturated with capitalism. I don't know if you remember that or do you know what
yeah,
like
yeah,
if it
yes.
resonates.
it's it's something that I I think I've kind of lost perspective because I've lived in the US for 10 years, but I was talking to
Yeah.
one of my friends and he made this observation because he just moved here two 2 years or like a couple months ago. Typically in India, we feel bad about spending money. We're like, okay, why should I go to a fancy restaurant when I can get, roadside
Same.
pav bhaji for 20 rupees? Why should I pay for a kamwali because it's costing me so much money? Especially when you come here because we have the tendency to convert and we have a tendency to feel like everything's expensive, even though normally this thing. Over here, people are less. Um, here, people are less.
Yeah, I think I get it. Like, here people are
Yeah,
less
yeah,
concerned. Like, they're more about the experiences, like, what is my time worth? Like, that is
yeah,
what they are. Like, they're always thinking about, like, can I just, which is why, like, people who have lived here a long time will be like, everything is super easy here. And as an immigrant, when you come here, you are like, wait, how is it easy? It's so complicated because people who find it easy here are like
yeah,
they are okay spending that 100, $200 and getting that stuff outsourced and then
yeah.
valuing your time. Like here, time is money, and literally people live through that. Would you agree? Would you disagree? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, in some ways, I think you have the ability to outsource a lot of things that you don't get to in India, but that comes with its own like I would primarily do it if I want to claim my time back, whether that's to do something else or just to like enjoy myself because I hate cleaning,
Yeah.
right? And that's available in any, like, they have services where you can get food delivered, grocery delivered, get a dhobi wala. I guess now that I'm saying it, it all is available in India. It's just like at a fraction of the cost compared to the US.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think for India, so much of it is inbuilt in your life already that you don't really think of it as an added cost. Like we're already living very comfortably. Here, to live comfortably, you have to put in that money, right? And I want to tap into what you said actually, because you just said whether it's to enjoy my time. And
Hmm.
I think that is a big thing for immigrants here. Like, we feel so bad about enjoying, like, okay, agar
Hmm.
if it's the weekend, I should spend my time cleaning the house and saving that $100 on a cleaning service,
Yeah.
right? Versus
Yeah.
like, I just want to have a good time this weekend and this 2 hours I can pay 100. So I think the comfort of enjoying and adding some value to it is a
Yeah.
hard transition for an immigrant, right? Would you agree?
I definitely agree. The quality of life, like a lot of us move here for a better quality of life, but a quality of life does not mean just living in a nicer place, right? It's all about getting more control over your time and being able to go out and enjoy and do things that you want to. And I think that we tend to lose sight of because we're worried about counting the pennies
Yeah.
and losing track of the bigger picture.
No, thank you. This was very, very insightful. And yeah, like I say, it takes you a while to get there, but once you do, and once you understand what you want to value, it's an easy place for you to settle in. But this was helpful, just unpacking the immigrant mindset. And to everyone who's listening, the reason we wanted to talk about it this way is, we will be covering a lot of finance topics so that you get comfortable. But I do want to make sure everyone understands that the mindset is the same. Our mindset is different from someone who is born and raised here, who's lived the American life and how they have grown up. When you are coming here, just first feel comfortable with the fact that a lot of people are going through this. However, for us to make our money work, we have to get into this system of how making our money make us more money, and that just takes a little bit more effort. And we will be using our time with Rishin to talk about those specific topics and help you unpack that. But Rishin, before we close this out, I know you have some good tools, like you help out a lot of people. So do you want to share a little bit about how people can find you, what your services are, and a little bit about the toolkit that you offer as well?
Yeah, so I'm a financial planner that specializes in working with immigrants, typically people that have one foot in India, one foot in the US, people who are new to the country and trying to figure out the whole system. And I offer coaching services, consulting, things like that. I'm active on LinkedIn if you kind of want to understand what financial planning is all about. And we can leave my website down in the show
Totally.
notes if that
Yeah, so we leave
works.
the website there, and let's continue this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.